Alright, Shalom. It's Brother Isaiah from GMS Raleigh, GMS North Carolina Camp back with the Lord's willing edifying lesson. Before we go any further, of all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. The one of the apostles and other bishops of Great Millstone teaching us how to stand truth according to the Bible and rule well, and peace and blessings to the afflicted the nation of Israel. Take their spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Linking to the Lord's willing edifying lesson. I might title it Stop All the Hate. Or, as we, always get this, we have this stigma that we hate the other camps, we hate everyone, we're the most, there's actually a compilation video that was made a few years ago, mainly with the San Francisco brothers. It was titled The Most Hateful Group in America. And we're just telling our people where they're going off at. We're just telling our people, about their false doctrines, their false breakdowns, how they're leading people astray. We're actually showing the most, love to our neighbor, as it tells us here in Leviticus 19 and 17. Here we are going to the law. You see, it says, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him." Right? When you read it in verse 17, it says, "Don't nurse hatred in your heart for any of your relatives." Yeah, are we not all Israelites here? Are we not of the seed of Abraham? So you can nurse hatred. You can see someone, going the wrong way. Hey, just sit back. Don't tell them anything. But here we are. Week in and week out, we're diligent. We're telling these Genesis characters, where they're going off at in doctrine. And we're also pointing out the hypocrisy of you other camp leaders, that are joining hand in hand with the Genesis, right? With these guys who are saying that the heathen nations can be saved after, teaching for years that, salvation was, of course, only for Israel, which we understand that. At the end of the day, let the Most High be true and every man a liar. It's going to be proven whom the Lord is dealing with, right? It says, "Do not nurse hatred in your heart for any of your relatives. Confront people directly." So we're confronting you directly, doing the video, making it understood where you're going off at. With the ISUBK saying that John the Baptist is a man of the Lord. All these guys, here it is. These men follow Yahweh Shai, right? They were heralds for Yahweh Shai. Apostle Paul, right, was knocked off the high horse and seen the glory, right, of the Lord. All these, accounts that we have in the scriptures about, men who followed Yahweh Shema Shai or follower of the Lord now in 2025, what they have to say don't matter. So it proves that you guys are just coming back in your lap. It says, "Confront people directly so you will not be held guilty for their sin." Is that not what we're doing? Are we not confronting you directly? You see, this is Romans 16, verse 17. "Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine," right? Offenses, right? And divisions. These guys are causing a bunch of confusion and division. You have the BOW, bow. What was their name stand for? I really don't even know. Not even trying to be joke. I can't really remember BOW, the Bow Israelites. Yeah, I don't know it. Slack for that. But who cares what the mark of the beast is? The mark of the beast doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know what the mark of the beast is or not. That's what these guys literally said. You had the General Yohana. He said that John the Baptist is a plate of fish. Pass me the hot sauce. You got members in IOIC, saying that you can call the Most High Yogur if you really wanted to. It doesn't matter what his name is. All these guys, have for years said these outlandish things, and here we are. We're just marking them that cause division. When you look at this word mark, it goes into scopeo, meaning to point out, to put the scope on them, right? Because brothers have accounts, of how we may have watched other Israelite groups, because you don't necessarily know the difference, right? It says scopeo, to look at, observe. It says to fix one's eyes upon, directs one attention to, right? So we're directing the attention of our flock, because we do these videos, we don't really care if you watch the videos, because my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. We know the elect's sheep are going to, tune into the videos, and that's what we do these videos for, right? So we're pointing out to our sheep, we're the sheep of Yahweh Shema Shai, I should say, the followers of the apostles' doctrine, like speaks about in Acts, right? The book of Acts, right? And they steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine, right? These men be the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the whole way of salvation, right? So there's men who are going to be showing you the whole way of salvation, and those men will be pointing out and putting the scopeo on those who are doing of the contrary. It says, now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause division in the offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. That's why we're not here to debate. We're not here. We don't want to talk to you about anything. No, we're going to avoid any type of altercations with these guys. We've made the videos, and the Spirit has us keep coming back to these, because these guys playing the victim card. The Most High is not fooled. The Most High is not mocked. I find it kind of funny that Drewski video came out of him scoffing at the Israelites. When they take off their garments, they're niggas in the world. And it's so true, because it has a lot of truth behind it, because that's what these guys really are. They're weakened Israelites. They're not really sincere. They're not really down for the cause of Yahweh Shema Shai, right? So are we hating? No, we're just doing the job here. Ezekiel 3:17 says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life. The same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. So we don't want your filthy blood staying upon our reputation. We will tell you. We'll tell you direct. You're going off. You're wicked. And at least you repent. The Most High is gonna, do a harsh judgment to you. There's no. I don't know how to sugarcoat it. It's gonna be harsh. It's going to be a brutal judgment, all right? It's going to be what you least expected, It's going to be worse than you've ever expected. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power. So we're just doing our job and our duty as the watchmen, as the overseers over the house of Israel, and we're here to, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, rebuke, reprove and exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. That's what we're going to do. Right? Because we understand the time will come where they will not endure sound doctrine. Right? It's interesting. It's very interesting. Ezekiel 3:19 says, yet if thou warn the wicked, that's what we're doing. We're warning the wicked. And, men are crawling out of their caves and saying that they agree with the wicked. It's very interesting. A few months or years back, I don't remember. Time flies, everything's a blur. But you had the MOT to the B, right? And all we proved that it wasn't a sin in all these camps. Remember, Watchmen for Israel, the BOW. I still don't know what BOW stands for. But you had all of these guys come out with their, saying, basically all doubling down, saying that the MOT to the B is a physical, is a spiritual mark. These things say it's a spiritual mark for the carnal man, and that it's sin. It's basically just sin. It's a sin to take it, but we don't know what it is. And the same thing is happening now, showing you that there's plans set up, in these other camps, that might get into the ears of some of these leaders, because all these leaders, they're not that smart. They're not all that juiced in. But, it's very fishy. It's very fishy, when you really sit down and think about it. It says, yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thou hast delivered thy soul. So that's all it is. Are we showing hate? Here in Proverbs 27:5, open rebuke is better than secret love. All right, what is that? Proverbs, I believe the 9th chapter. Proverbs 9 and we'll start at 7. It says, he that reproveth a scorner giveth himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man giveth himself a blot. It says, reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. No, that's not the one I want. That's a good one. Oh yeah, that's in Psalms. Yeah, King David. Yep, this is Psalms 141 and 5. Let me read it in NLT. It says, let the godly smite me. It shall be a kindness. So this is kindness. This is love. That's why I was going to title it, but I'm in confusion. This is love. We're keeping the Lord's commandments. We're rebuking you. We're not letting sin. We're not suffering sin upon you. Hey, you're going down the wrong way. This is the way. Walk ye in it. We're telling you. It says, let the godly smite me. It will be a kindness if they correct me. It is soothing medicine. And that's so true. Being brothers who have been corrected. Well, we all have been corrected, right? We've all gone through that process of being reproved and rebuked, right? And it's a smoothing medicine. It's like, wow, that was those instructions that come from the rebuke. As long as you apply those things and not get offended, wow, that was the way. It soothes things out, right? But these other camps, right, they hate to rebuke. He that is often reproved hardeneth his neck. Scriptures tell us that a sinful man will not be reproved, and he findeth an excuse, for his wickedness. There's always an excuse Jake's gonna make, right? This is just protocol. We're just doing this because the Lord wants us to do it. Because there's guys who follow those. I'll give my account for myself. You had the Chi-Town Israelites. Right? I was Nazariah. Is it Nazariah? Yeah, he was in the Chicago camp. Short story, I didn't know he was a bug out, when I first came in. I was watching him, right? And then brothers did a video. Hey, watch out for these guys. These are, of course, I was like, man, this guy, what he's teaching it's not really adding up. But, you still follow the guy. You're not really knowing, you're just watching videos, anything that come on your feed. And the brothers did a video, and the ex-head of the Dallas camp, him and two other guys, saying these guys are false teachers. And I was like, where are they teaching that's false? And then the brothers went into it. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to start watching those guys. And it's really that simple. All this hate, that you guys say, we'll be them guys if we need to be. because we're doing the righteous work. It says, let the godly smite me, and there will be a kindness. If they correct me, it is smoothing medicine. Don't let me refuse it, but I pray consistently against the wicked and their deeds. So that's pretty much the lesson. It's pretty straight to the point. Is it really love? Is it really hate? Our king. This is King David. He had the spirit of letting that he should be rebuked. That he should be smitten by the righteous, right? And that's our mindset, to let the righteous smite us. And the righteous are, lifting up the standard here in these last days, starting with the other apostles and the other bishops of Great Millstone. We're lifting up the standard. That false doctrine is not going to be accepted here in Israel, right? And who is on the Lord's side? Let him come in hither. That's the question, right? So the line is being drawn in the sand, and we'll see. What do you want to do, right? Who do you want to follow, right? You're gonna be followers of Yahweh Shema Shai, or you're gonna be followers of these Genesis guys, Johnny Come Latelys, been rebellious, track record of following degenerates, all type of secrets and lies coming out, schemes coming against the body, paying for breakdowns, Hebrew prayers, marriage councils, right? It's just like, what are we talking about here? Hey, but let the blind lead the blind, and both of them shall fall into the ditch. So with that, pray to edify it. Take some and say, Shalom.